Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. My name is Yunus Khan. Welcome to the April edition of the LGMA monthly webinars towards COP30. This is designed to support the preparation of the local government and municipal authorities constituency in the UNFCCC process. We will kick off the presentation in 30 seconds. We're just allowing all partners and participants to settle down so that they can continue joining us without any disturbance. So bear with us and thanks for your flexibility in advance. Good. I think we are we have already reached to our um, participants participation, so we can start our session. So before going into the details, a couple of housekeeping notes. This session is recorded, and after today you will receive the link on our recording on the YouTube as well as the presentation. We usually recommend participants to follow the presentation until the end so that then when we open the floor, they can have a more comprehensive overview of the whole topics because there are some issues that are linked to each other. But if in case there's any questions or points you want to make in during any topic of the topics presented here, feel free to type in the chat box or Q&A box. We try to take this into account while going through our presentation. We usually have, depending on the agenda and the calendar, a couple of partners who join us in this presentation. But today, for a couple of overlapping agendas, I will be alone in this webinar in terms of the speaker. But I hope we will do our best to ensure appropriate interactivity with our partners, especially the members of the LGMA community, many of whom I see in the participant list, but I also see a number of new faces as well. So our agenda consists of an introduction, and this will continue with a brief recap of our activities in COP29. This is this is a repetition, as we said, it's monthly, but because every session there may be newcomers, we go through this first part as quick as possible so that at least we are in the basic information for all of us, that our baseline is the same. But we want to spend more of our time in the updates since the last webinar. We will have a focus on town hall COPs. We will spend some time on the zero draft, and we will conclude with our agenda for May, June. This time, because of the very loaded agenda, we assume this presentation may go around 40 minutes or 45 minutes, so bear with us in advance. For those who are joining us for the first time, LGMA stands for the Local Governments and Municipal Authorities Constituency to the UNFCCC. In practical terms, we are the voice of subnationals, all types of towns, cities, regions in the UN climate process negotiations. Since 95, we are one of the first three constituencies. Our main mission is to influence the negotiations with a perspective of multi-level action and urbanization. We contribute to the action agenda since Paris Agreement. We collaborate with the COP presidencies so that their initiatives can be complementary and support of our priorities. And of course, we work with the parties to the UNFCCC convention because they are the ones who at the end table all the proposals, decide on the agreements or decisions, and those who are friendly to the concept of multi-level action, we are getting close always by sharing our intelligence and sharing our text and draft so that we can ensure a joint outcome and of course collaborate in the implementation at home as well. Your registration today enables you to attend the year-round webinars every month, the calendar announced here. If you haven't done so, feel free to also subscribe to our monthly bulletin because you will notice that, especially in our presentation today, some of the or many of the updates it's not possible to insert them with all the details into this presentation, but in our bulletin you have the links, you have the respective let's say background information that complement each other, and our next April webinar bulletin will be released on Monday, 5th of May, so you still have time to subscribe. We are in a new era starting from Belém. That will be the next couple of years and around or a decade. But of course, this builds on what we have achieved over the past 30 plus years. To cut it short, we have described our engagement or outcomes in this process in 4 phases. The first years, around 5 or 6 years, or even more than that, 10 years or so, we were relatively low profile, and because of our lack of recognition of the local and subnational engagement in the UNFCCC and Kyoto Protocol. On the way towards Copenhagen, when there was a new era of climate action to be followed in the Kyoto Protocol's first phase, we kicked off our roadmap to ensure recognition, engagement, and empowerment of local and regional governments. And that was the time when we were also starting to increase the number of our partners in this process. And this continued until Paris Agreement because of the failure of Copenhagen. And this was also the moment where we even advanced our efforts, because we always have believed in the value of multilateralism supporting local and subnational action as well. So this era concluded with the Paris Agreement, and as soon as we were recognized into the process, you can notice that inside and outside, the number of initiatives, processes have simply exploded. That shows why it is so important to have subnational and multi-level action on the ground to contribute to the implementation. And when we reached Glasgow in 2021, this was our second achievement, where we had inserted the term multi-level into the Glasgow Climate Pact. And immediately, with this recognition or this notion being accepted, so it's not just that there is different levels of government, but there is a multi-level collaboration. Then we have started implementing. We have introduced the urban ministerials also to this process, so that it's not just mayors versus ministers, but it is different levels of government and different spaces or different spheres of governments. That is cross constituency and cross governmental bodies in this process. That helped us to reach to Dubai with the paragraph 161, which now where parties are urged for multi-level action. That is important, because it's now becoming an official mission or mandated action, and it's also our responsibility. And we have supported with this initiatives from Sharm el Sheikh to Dubai and Baku, and that will be the background we're bringing to Belém. Our information are available, all the past implementation or engagement in the UN climate conferences or other events. You can find all our information. As LGMA, we are primarily focused on the blue zone, which is the negotiations area, and we have multiple engagement opportunities, from interventions to side events, from pavilions to official engagement in the ministerial dialogues as well, and of course, feeding into the negotiations. Especially on our website, we have increased our visual capacities. We have also made better use of our position papers to prepare our members, local and regional governments and their networks, their advocacy at the national level, but also influence the negotiations or feed into the negotiations, where here you can see that we have developed our joint position as like an executive summary. Then we have developed further, dig into the detail, more information on the ground about specific themes as an annex of this document. And we will very likely follow the same logic towards COP30, which we will discuss today. All our updates, recordings, the bulletins, and coverage daily and weekly are available on our website. And of course, for years, especially since COP26, our global stage for multi-level action and urbanization, multi-level action and urbanization has become our pavilion that we have developed together, ICLE as the LGMA focal point and UN Habitat as the UN Agency for Cities and Urbanization, which is supported by numerous partners, national and subnational level. And we are grateful for this collaboration. And together with the Brazilian Minister of Cities, we are also even more committed to make sure we have a bigger, better, and more effective presence in Belém. And we'll touch upon this later on. Uh, let's remember Belém is, in fact, has a mandate to conclude or deliver what has been agreed in the past two COPs, which was the most important one. We are talking about the 3 years of a process, and it will all conclude with the new generation of national climate plans, so-called NDCs 3.0. But the initiatives, the outcomes will all have to feed in so that we complement our work appropriately. So this was background, and from this moment, this slide onwards, we're getting a bit more on fresh information. These are some updates that we will now take you through. This is a slide that we use, there's a visual we use in terms of describing the governance of this process. Obviously, uh, every year, the country who is hosting this conference of parties has the responsibility of the president. So they're not logistical host, but they are political host. They have the mandate to safeguard the implementation, but towards the middle of the year, the incoming presidency starts to take over. In between, the delegations are redesigned. The outgoing presidency starts to get smaller in number. The incoming delegation starts to gather bigger in size and capacities. And all these goes in hand, especially in the middle of the year at the UN Climate Conference in Bonn. Azerbaijan presidency is continuing to follow up all the outcomes. We will update you on what their efforts over the past couple of weeks. But now we are seeing even more announcement almost daily from the Brazilian presidency, and that's exactly was the expectation for in order to make sure that they prepare the conference in November. They have to now make a better dissemination of our vision, of their vision, their plans, their teams, how to lead this process. So the new information from our side that now we have also the high level climate action champion. This is a legacy from Paris Agreement. This is the person appointed by the presidency who takes over the engagement of non-party stakeholders into the climate action, and it has been an impressive journey that where both ICLE and all many partners of the LGMA have been actively involved in the human settlements and the Marrakesh Partnership. The Youth Climate Champion of Brazilians will be announced soon. They have called for applications and they will review their applications. We have been working with Mario Motin as observers, and we can officially also say that the subnational engagement is coordinated by our colleague Bruna Cerqueira from the Minister of Environment. She's also leading the action agenda engagement. One important point, you may remember over the past years, the presidencies announced their advisory boards, which are defined based on their choices, preferences. In the past, we had a number of subnational leaders, local leaders. The latest version was with the Algeria presidency, where Kuala Lumpur Mayor Maïno Sherif and Quezon Mayor Josephine Belmonte were included in the advisory board. Now, in the case of Brazilian government, they have announced their Muturao approach, which is inclusive consultations and visionary engagement. Within the scope, instead of one advisory board, they have started to announce that they are building leadership circles, which are four different groups of leaders that will be taking over some of those issues from finance to adaptation. And they have introduced another group of consultation body, which is Global Ethical Stocktaking, which is a bit more constituency-based engagement. Obviously, these are all innovations, mechanisms that are introduced by the Brazilian presidency based on their own national style of policy making or decision making. We don't know how much this kind of things will continue, but this year for sure they will act. They will be in practice, and our goal is to make sure, as much as possible, local and subnational governments and their networks, their representative at the political level, technical level, are included in these bodies so that our voices are heard and we provide inputs to the efforts of the presidency. Again, these are mandated to serve the efforts of the presidency. They are not bounded by the UN, UNFCCC processes. That's the beauty and the beast of the process. And obviously, we are continuing to see these three COP presidencies: Azerbaijan, Emirates, United Arab Emirates, and Brasilia, to work under the Mission 1.5 degree Troika, which is mainly for the NDC's preparation. Every year we focus our activities, our advocacy agenda on three main grounds or three main axes. One, the global processes, which are completely on their own governance structures or on their own mandates. These are not bounded by any of the UN rules, and the countries who host this process are the ones who shape the governance and decision-making process. This includes G7, G20, and other efforts. We also are closely following the national legislative processes or executive process because they shape the position of the government in the UN spaces. You have seen how we are seeing the influence in the latest couple of months, which is particularly in the global north countries. Continuous changes of the leadership is also making governments moving from one side to the other in terms of their commitment on climate action. The UN level or UNFCCC or UN level engagements are defined as blue. Here we are talking about the technical meetings of the UNFCCC, but also the efforts of the UN Secretary General, UN Habitat, UNEP, UNDP. These are, of course, or other Rio conventions. They have specific rules, agreed rules. Each of them has different nuances. That's also possible, but they are, let's say, following a certain mechanisms that we are bounded with these rules and procedures. Therefore, our engagement may be a bit different than these kind of other processes. The last column or the last row is our green lighted boxes. These are the ones that are led by our leaders or members of our LGMA constituency or their partners, which are the spaces where we shape the rules, the agendas, and these are the moments where we define our outcomes and then we cook our inputs to those processes. These are. I will not go. I will not go to all the details of the whole calendar, but now focus on the latest updates from March to April. In terms of the global agendas, we had seen the global ABC, which is an important partner of the buildings community or construction sector served by UNEP. OECD is a global north think tank, and for years, of course, they had shown interest to urban agenda, but now they have elevated even to higher level. Their first urban days were held this year in Paris, and we regularly contribute into the World Bank and spring meetings. Particularly this year was very interactive, and obviously the latest update comes from Canada. We have heard the continuity of the previous government who was serving, especially in the past couple of years, which was being one of the strongest partners of ambitious climate action, as well as the LGMA. As we have seen, they had been partnering, endorsing the CHAMP, and their NDC was very promising. We are very happy this kind of government continues because the other political party was much distant from the climate action. So it's good to have Canada as a country in the global north to continue the leadership, and very likely it's even more strengthened now. There's one more good news from Canada, at least until we see other official announcements, but we have at least Mayor Greg Robertson, former mayor of Vancouver, GCOM ambassador, is now elected as the member of parliament to a Canadian Senate, which will be continuing to his leadership in the legislative body. Of course, in the case of multi-level action, such positions and having strong leadership is always an advantage. Inside the UNFCCC process, We had witnessed a very interesting Petersburg climate dialogue. For the first time ever, there was an official debate on multi-level action, and there was also the first time ever a discussion on the governance of the UN climate process. The Brazilian government and the German government, particularly related to the latest changes in the geopolitics. We as LGMA always have a seat in the last 3 years in this process. I made myself available on behalf of LGMA, and it was possible for us to interact in the plenary and breakout groups. And we will see the impact of this in the next agendas, especially on the Copenhagen as well. We have heard there is a high-level champion. Azerbaijan government, as COP29 presidency, continued to take the message, the outcomes from Baku to various UN meetings in Geneva on the 14th of April and to Bangkok, to the UNESCO. And we are very happy. Our partners like Global Cities Hub in Geneva and ICLE South Asia they were representing the LGMA in these important meetings. You may have heard the UN Secretary General, together with the Brazilian presidency, have hosted an important virtual leaders meeting on climate and just transition on the 22nd of April, the Earth Day. The interesting thing is that it was a limited number of leaders. They said that it's less than 20. Unfortunately, there are not too much outcomes or shared, or it's not clear the full list of participants and what they have presented there, except China. The Chinese president Xi Jinping is the only one who made their statement available publicly, which was impressive in terms of their ambition and their commitment to support multilateralism. On that same day, UN Secretary General also launched a new web page under the UN Secretary General's website for local leaders, voices from local and subnational leaders, with GCOM under two, America's all in, which is of course demonstrating that as the more we get into the solutions of the climate action and the more we need more ambitious engagement, the UN family is understanding and valuing the engagement of local and regional governments. And yesterday, we heard COP30 and Bloomberg Philanthropies announcing their commitment to work together on the way to COP30 with a number of series of events, including Local Leaders Forum, which gives the impression that it will be a continuity of their the efforts that was with COP28 presidency towards local action summit. But of course, because of this uniqueness, we may expect some changes, especially how this process will feed into the PCOP, which is announced yesterday in Brasilia, the COP Leaders Summit on the 6th and 7th of November, so that it is a unique opportunity for us to embrace. Obviously, putting local and subnational at the heart of it is always an advantage for us. With regards to our efforts over the past couple of weeks, one of our biggest achievements was that we have announced the kickoff of the LGMA COP30 Brazil National Coordination Group. This idea to create national supplements was discussed since Glasgow, and when we were successfully engaging the concept of multi-level into the UNFCCC space. But over these years, the way the host countries, the presidencies were developing were not that much suitable for us. Many of our LGMA partners did not have members in these countries, and the mechanics of engagement were limited. So it was not, the conditions were not, let's say, very suitable. But Brazil is well known for a long time, a culture of federal and inclusive multi-stakeholder approaches. We have seen this in the climate federalism. So there's no better country than Brazil to test this idea. The subnational state governments, local governments, federal government, all uniting through different processes. And we as LGMA would like to use this opportunity so that we can have a better dialogue between our constituency and the presidency, and especially the ideas of this climate federalism can be better reflected and shared worldwide, and each country can define their own models, but this could be presented as good practice. We were a part of the World Local Economy Forum, which was designed as a feed into the Finance for Development Conference in the end of June. In Korea, we had the World Local Government Climate Summit, where we were able to interact with the GCF, the Green Climate Fund co-chair, COP22 champion, Hakim Al Hayte, UNFCCC Executive Secretary, UN Habitat Executive Director, and as well as the Korean stakeholders who are actively involved in the multi-level action and Korean government in the CHAMP as well initiative. On the days we were in Korea, we were informed that the Korean government is now Korean political agenda is evolving to an election on the 3rd of June. This gives us the chance that Korean government will, after the elections, will have a renewed mandate, and we hope the incoming government will be continuing the leadership of the Korean stakeholders on climate action. Korea has been one of the most active on the local agenda for years, and they had also been demonstrating multi-level collaboration. For example, in their NDC 2.0, the commitment for climate neutrality came after all local governments have announced their climate neutrality commitment. So this bottom-up and collaboration has been very strong in Korea. Yesterday, again, the day before, in Kobe, Japan, Urban 7 mayors have met. This was an interesting model. Obviously, it is the presidency of Canada, but due to the elections going on in Canada, the Japanese partners, JDCMA, offered their willingness together with the city of Kobe to host this Urban 7 partners meeting. It was fantastically complimentary because now, at the end of this month, in May, at the end of May, the Urban 7 chair, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, will convene their annual Congress, which will be also an opportunity for Urban 7 gathering. And the discussions in Kobe will feed into the official Urban 7 Mayor's Declaration. Therefore, there will be a nice continuity and complementarity between these processes. Town Hall COPs, we will discuss about this. And over these couple of weeks, we had also made LGMA voices to be feeding to the finance, loss and damage, and adaptation as well. So we're now, this is like day-to-day updates, but we are all preparing for a new vision, a new way of engagement, starting from this year's conclusion of the NDCs 3.0. This is a new era where the engagement of local energy governments have much more opportunities, both through their dialogues with national governments, like process like CHAMP, or with their engagement through national associations and LGMA, which is the voice to the UNFCCC. We will be ready to help this process, and in between we are proposing that it's not just the networks, but at the local level, at the community level, there's a role for the individual local engineers to be more active, which is the vision we have presented as Town Hall COPs, so that this introduction or increased mobility at the local level can feed into the national and to the UNFCCC level through different channels. But the purpose is that it is the community-led processes that become the centerpiece of the climate action, and that they are relevant to the national processes and commitments, and that they introduce really the new opportunities for transformation. That's the whole spirit of the Town Hall COP process, connecting climate action at all levels. In fact, we really want to make this discussion that climate action is not just a diplomatic process. It is not just somewhere around the world, which is far from our realities. In fact, it is just the opposite, because the more we are successful, the more we are ambitious at the local and subnational level, the more we can expect our national governments to be serving to our expectations, and backwards, we can also receive the necessary financial, technical support, and the synergy and collaboration. So, from the words of Simon Still, the UNFCCC Executive Secretary, you can really see how the Town Hall COP effort is complementing the global priorities. Simon Still says that in 2025, as countries develop their national climate plans, integrating local leadership and solutions will be essential. Engagement platforms that bring climate conversations and consultations to cities, towns, and regions can empower local governments to shape national climate strategies that reflect their communities' needs. It's exactly what the Town Hall COP wants to deliver, to bring the climate debate back to the political agenda at the local level to make these discussions even more ambitious, but more importantly, to make sure that they are relevant to the national plan, which are just being designed in the weeks and days we are living in, so that they do speak to each other, they help each other, they encourage, they benefit, and they support each other. And the third, that the climate action is not just a hypothetical mitigation or arbitrary emissions that we don't see, but really it touches to the real life in the ground, which is the health, our livelihood, our resources, our generations' future sustainability efforts, and also offering the economic and social benefits to especially the disadvantaged communities across the world and across our cities and regions. We have prepared a town hall COP kit toolkit, which is available already online. And the website, you can download this toolkit, and also you can register your interest to host such sessions, and that feed into the COP30 in Belém, even if you're not going in person to Belém. We are very happy already as of today. We are informed a series of cities and regions across the world have already started preparing for that. Sydney has already hosted their first session, and we are hearing that there will be other Australian cities, especially after the election. Muğla, Turkey, Riverside, USA, Tishwane, South Africa, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Nansana, Uganda, and Campinas, Brazil are the first 5 or 6, but we are confident that we will not be limited with those cities and regions. We look forward to hearing your interest, especially for the Global South. Based on the availability of our resources, we will try to do our best for providing some incentives, but basically it is in your hands. We have provided all the information and the solution packages, and it is up to you to make your local governments motivated for that, and make your leaders talk to their national governments and make sure that their communities really benefit from this transformation. Uh, Here's the example. Let's remember the national climate plans that are supposed to be ready by at least September are still not there yet. Yes, officially they have time to submit, or any country can submit any national plan anytime they wish, that we have seen in the past. But as quick as possible, this is better because the others can be informed. But if they are taking their time for consultations, that is also acceptable or understandable. This means more than three-fourths of the nations have not prepared their or submitted their climate plans yet. This is an opportunity, which means through your local and regional governments, you can influence through their national associations. You can still have the chance to knock on the door of your national government, mainly ones who are the ministers of environment or climate change, who are responsible for these documents, but also ministers of urbanization, who are the ones who will help us to enhance the urban component of the NDCs. So far, around 30% of the already submitted national climate plans are better off for their urban components or a recognition of their multi-level action, which is slightly better than what we have seen in the second generation of NDCs, but we are hopeful the new ones will be even better, because it is exactly what we need, that all these efforts should make sure that in this new urban world that we are living in, the success of the climate plans depends on how much they have been incorporating the priorities at the local and national and subnational level. We are now coming to the last part of our discussion. This is the discussion about our vision towards and at COP30 in Belém. You may remember we discussed at the beginning that having a joint position is helpful to mobilize our leaders, to make sure we are speaking as a unified voice, and to make sure we can impact the negotiations and the preparations. In that regard, uh, following the previous year's practices, we want to focus on our three high-level messages and then build our message around these three main perspectives. Due to the priorities of this year, we believe we would like to focus on these three axes as before Belém, our action in presence in Belém, and what will we do beyond Belém. When we say before Belém, we refer to our mobilization and advocacy at the national level. with regards to our influence to the national climate processes, with regards to mobilization of our own communities. When we talk about Belém, we are trying to ensure that this mature spirit of COP30 presidency is empowered with multi-level action and urbanization so that we can add on Dubai and Baku commitments and then bring the necessary momentum that is needed. And the third is the governance of the climate regime. This was very, very unique because this was always discussed behind the doors or from circles that were not necessarily in the official process. But it is very clear the presidency, COP30 president, wants to make this as a part of the official agenda, and that has already been a number of efforts. And we now believe that it is the right time because it's very clear. While we were very happy to see the Paris Agreement opening doors for whole of society and whole of government approach, the domestic mechanisms, sorry, the UN climate negotiations or the UN climate processes or the UN governance was not fit for this purpose. At the time when we will be electing, or the United Nations will be electing a new Secretary General, at the time when the United Nations is celebrating its 80th anniversary and even discussing the future of the United Nations or multilateralism, which can be better or worse from what we have today, it is the right time to start being bold and being proposing ideas that we can really make a change and at least try these changes. So these are the headlines. What are the concrete proposals? Asks, yes. The first one is to our constituency, to local and regional governments across the world. Go and work with your national governments. Make sure that you are related yourself to the national efforts. Second, when we are in Belém, we make sure the discussions that is coming from Dubai and Baku, especially on transition from fossil fuels, adaptation-related commitments, this climate finance, which is unfortunately far away from being real, has to be concluded so that we build trust, we build guarantee that climate action is benefiting. But we will also trying to make sure there will be new topics like connection of climate action to food, nature, waste, informality, land use that are really part of the just transition, are on the agenda, and all these are discussed with our hub at its heart. And beyond Belém, we'd like to particularly discuss how can we make sure an integrated, holistic, ambitious climate action can be crafted inside the UNFCCC and outside the UNFCCC, being aware that we are going into a more fragmented and unstable world. Under this each heading, we have specific calls. For example, regardless of being endorsing or to the champ, all countries have to address multi-level NDCs because of the Dubai commitment. But we particularly expect the countries from champ endorsers to be providing good practices. This year, we'd like to work with UN Habitat to introduce a new element. We have been very successful over the past 3 years for urban and climate ministerials at the COPs. But this year, because of this unique conditions in logistically in Belém and also the political at home, we are suggesting maybe we can approach a couple of governments so that they can convene their urban climate ministers at home and then bring these results to UNFCCC, and it will make these discussions input to their national NDC preparation process. Obviously, we will use our own channels, town hall COPs, and we will also see how we can engage the initiatives of the COP30 presidency. In Belém, the heart of our presence will be the Cities and Regions Hub. As we said, together with Minister of Cities of Brazil, ICLE and UNEBITAT, this will be even a more powerful stage, and it will even open the opportunity that even if you are not traveling to Belém, through your engagement throughout the year, we will make sure your voices are heard and that we feed into the discussions in Dubai, in Belém. The negotiation agenda items, for each of them, we have our own positions, and we will try to make sure that this is formulated in technically viable format so that we can feed into the negotiations. And beyond Belém, we have to think about how we can encourage more inclusive and ambitious action, especially making the linkage between climate, land, and nature making sure that these are just and circular so that we can offer this as our solutions to save the SDGs and save the post 2030 processes. Um, in the UNFCCC governance, we want to position subnational or multi-level action and urbanization as key elements to make sure making the governance regime fit for Paris Agreement, particularly by bridging the action agenda and the multi-level indices. Obviously, we'll have to discuss this in the part of the stocktake, second edition of the stocktake, but we will also make use other mechanisms as well. And finally, we heard about this proposal from the presidency, Brazilian presidency, for a UN level climate change council, which is not a negotiation body, but more an implementation body. If such a body is created, we want to make sure that we have an appropriate seat as the constituency based of engagement of our local and regional governments, so that the new multilateralism is even stronger, even better than what we have today, but not worse than what we have today. And our last slide, in the next couple of weeks, in the next 8 weeks, we will be again focusing on a number of agendas. We will watch the Australian elections. This is important because the result may influence the decision on the who will host the COP31 in 2026. Australia is a candidate with the current government, but the government who is now in the election campaign, the other part of the spectrum, are saying that they have no interest to have Australia to host COP31. If this party wins, obviously there is no expectation for Australia. This means Turkey may be alone, or another party from the northern global north, which is Western Europe and others group, for example, Canada, could step up or fill the void, and it's of course still a negotiation. There will be a discussion in Berlin on NDC conference, which is led by NDC partnership. And in end of June, Paris, City of Paris will celebrate Paris Plus 10 with a number of other partners. On the presidency side, we will have Copenhagen Climate Ministerial. The good news, next week, this is for the first time, a spatial roundtable on champ and multi-level action is on the agenda. That we are very, very excited, thanks to the positive feedbacks and positive leadership of Danish government, who is the logistical host and also the political host, of course, but the Brazilian government and Azeri government, who are already endorsers of CHAMP. So stay tuned. This will be a unique moment, and we will make sure the outcomes are communicated, being aware that these meetings are Chatham House rules, but especially having a ministerial dialogue at this level and this time in the year will help us to achieve more progress in Bonn at the end of at the middle of in the middle of June for the UN climate talks. We will be engaged in Panama Climate Week, which will be not just regional but also global this time. There will be a second UN Habitat Assembly resume session. That is the moment where we are hoping to announce our partnership with Minister of Cities of Brazil for our journey towards COP30. There will be a UN Ocean Conference in Nice. UNFCCC will be meeting in Bonn in June again, and the Finance for Development Conference will be in Sevilla. Of course, the discussions about $1.3 trillion for climate action in connection with urban and other nature finance mechanisms will be a hot topic there. From our side, LGMA level, we will be continuing the engagement of the national partners in Brazil. They will have a second meeting on the 13th of May. This will also be supported by an internal LGMA governance call, which will also be an opportunity for us to understand how we will be advising or advancing our joint position, the main elements that we have presented, and how to build it further. As part of the Ocean Conference, there will be a spatial coalition of cities and subnationals, which will be on the 7th of June. During the SPs in Bonn, we will have the Daring Cities on 16th to 18th of June with a number of agendas that is open for the LGMA partners. We will see the experience for the first wave of town hall COPs. And at the end of June, we will see the London Climate Week, a week-long activity in London, including the C40, an important partner of LGMA constituency, celebrating its 20th anniversary, because this is currently led by London as the chair of C40, which will be providing a number of announcements and very promising outcomes as well. And we will feed all these to our journey towards COP30. As I said, I am sorry that it was a bit difficult for those who listen to this presentation for with the one person speaking for 5 minutes. But as I said, this was because of the unique conditions of today. I hope we were able to still keep your attention. I would ask my colleague Kata if there are any immediate points in the chat box that we have to respond. But if not, you can also start considering if you want to intervene now. You can raise your hand. We can offer you the microphone and our video so that you can be visible in this discussions.
Yeah, no questions so far, but I see Divine is raising their hand, so I'll allow them to talk.
Indeed,
You
yes.
can talk now, Divine.
Yeah. Hey, hi, Yunus and everyone. Nice meeting you. Yeah. Basically, I'm so delighted listening to all this presentation and the roadmap for the COP30. It's very impressive and actually constructive discussion you've just shared with us. Now, coming to the youth perspective and equally at the global level, I'm happy to inform you I had a very close meeting with Serman Hart, who is the Assistant Secretary General, Climate Action and Just Transition, a couple of weeks back at the ECOSOC Youth Forum, where they invited a couple of 10 young people to discuss on the next steps for climate action. And I was one of the most experienced person among the young people, because as you know, I was one of those that designed the SDGs with Amina Mohammed. So the my point here is we are very, very ready. We are in 170 countries and working with over 70 institutions, high schools, universities, and TVETs. So we're going to be we're really pleading to lead the MGMA Youth Constituency and Women Perspective, because we are fully and strongly established. We have all the conventions, we are accredited to all the conventions. And thank you very much. And I think it was very, very important for us to meet Yunus. Unfortunately, you have been busy with your team, but I think it's very, very important for us to reconnect and at a certain point and see how we can make things happen. The last thing I want to say is that the Assistant Secretary General was very, very impressed with the work we have done so far, and they really committed themselves to make sure that a lot of our members should be in Brazil for this very important COP. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Divine. We are very happy to be connected to you over the past couple of weeks, and thanks for your interest to join our calls. As we have discussed, especially for town hall COPs, we are also discussing with the youth constituency, Yungo. Those who are familiar, they are leading this ALCOIS, the local conference of youth. On the way to Dubai, we have worked with them on the stock takes, local stock takes. We are very happy that there is a continued interest. So we would be very happy if you can help us or you can be engaged in this. And because you were mentioning about your engagement, the Food System Summit, let's remember the mitigation work program will focus on sorry, the Standing Committee on Finance will focus on food this year in September in Rome, and the mitigation work program will also focus on waste and circularity, which will also have relevance to the food waste or municipal waste. So there are a lot of cross fertilization, other ideas. Divine, let's make sure that in the next couple of weeks we have a one-on-one bilateral. I will do my best. We have our youth colleagues joining us so that we can concretely, especially on the town hall COPs, to make it real and bring the results. And we will be more than happy to see you or engaging in our pavilion and other efforts. So let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Divine. I see very nice
There's a question
messages.
from Carmen.
Good.
There's a question from Carmen. Will the
Mhm.
small and medium-sized cities be raised as a theme? Solutions in your action strategy and plan?
You said Simon, who was the person who asked the question? Oh, okay. Carmen Visara. Okay. Well, actually, Carmen, thanks for raising this issue. If you have noticed, we, as the constituency, we have different networks within our family. Some networks have specific target for specific group of cities or regions. Some are diverse, but we have always said that the climate action or sustainable action has no boundaries, and it has to be speaking to all. especially for intermediate cities or small and medium-sized cities, however you call it, even the terminology used by IPCC, rapidly evolving or emerging cities. We for sure want to make sure their voices are heard and their priorities are considered. This is particularly valuable for the global south, but also even in the cities of the global north. So in that sense, we do not want to make too much differentiation on that, but I think you're right that we have to have specific languages. And that's why we were very happy. If you have noticed, for example, this year's roadmap of LGMA kicked off in Cuenca, which was the city who was the chair of the Intermediary Cities Forum of UCLG, where we were very happy to have them engage in this discussion. And if you look at Belém, obviously Belém is not like Sao Paulo, not Rio, definitely. In the Brazilian context, it can be considered as a small size city, even it's 1.5 million. But obviously, you will see Belém has also been actively involved in a number of fronts. ICLE, South America Secretary is also working with their climate plans. Therefore, that's why we are also very excited that such meetings are convened in places which are not the usual suspects, but also all walks of life and having their space for that. So in fact, if you have any additional contribution on that front, feel free to reach out. You may have seen, for example, in the town hall COPs list, we have Nansana from Uganda. It's not the capital Kampala, it's Nansana, it's a different city. Again, Campinas is not a mega city of Brazil. These are the opportunities that we can offer as solutions exist everywhere. It has to be customized and it has to be designed based on their unique opportunities and challenges. I see Oliver as our friend, always supporting us, also echoing the importance of the intermediary cities, which has been also, of course, an important partner in all these processes. Carmen, especially in Argentina, we can definitely recommend you to get in touch with ICLE Argentina. And actually, we have from City of Rosario, Pilar Bueno, who is part of our adaptation working group. Argentina is a bit challenging because we know in Baku, the national delegation was pulled out of the negotiations. So you can be encouraged to connect to ICLE Argentina if you want to work more on these agendas.
Okay, then there's one more question from Stevie. Yeah, on the SDG 11.
Thank you, Stephen. You were asking about the work of LGMA on SDG 11. Obviously, if you look at the whole 17 SDGs, there is nothing special designed for SDG 13, which is climate action. And it was designed as being discussed in the UNFCCC, but the SDG 11, Sustainable Cities, has its own strength and its mechanics, and it's driven mainly by UN Habitat as well as the partnership with UN Secretary General and DESA. What we are saying, very happily saying, is that especially the new urban agenda over these years have got much more closer to climate and sustainability. You may have heard UN Habitat Assembly adopted 2 resolutions for the first time ever on cities and regions and biodiversity, and cities and regions with climate change. This was adopted in 2023. In May this year, there will be a follow-up of these discussions, and we're also have worked, especially last year when there was the SDG 11 review. We have also made the connection about how climate action can help sustainable cities. Therefore, we have a number of experiences and we have a number of cross-cutting areas. Happy to connect maybe if you have any specific points. You mentioned about disaster. This is particularly correct, as you have heard. Kobe, which has been the city which was hit by a very heavy earthquake in 95, and they have been also key driver of the Making Cities Resilient campaign and UN Disaster Risk Reduction Office, as well as Sendai Framework. So Making Cities Resilient campaign, partners involved, ICLE, C40, UCLG, they're also part of our work in the especially in adaptation. Therefore, we make sure that there is a strong interaction, and especially in this year, Brazilian government wants to make sure more progress on adaptation That's an opportunity that we have to use. And any contributions from your side, more than happy to hear your inputs. You can reach us through our lgma@iclay.org account on the email, or reach out or respond to this invitations where you joined your webinars, so that we can do our best to make the connection. By the way, I know in addition to those questions, I can recognize a couple of our colleagues from the LGMA constituency who can also respond for the topics that are relevant for them, if they're interested. I also recognize other comments on the chat box. My colleague Berat Şenyerli, Berat Bey, from Turkey and Germany, and especially bringing the private sector and efforts. That's really nice to hear. I'm just looking if we have other colleagues that could be providing any inputs. I can maybe put a radar on them if needed. So far, I see they are relatively in a listen mode, but we can continue obviously in the coming days and weeks. So stay tuned for us. And oh, Berat, you have been. Is this permanent move to Long Island, or is that transit, or just a trip? So let's stay in touch. So there was another update. Okay.
No, they're just exchanging. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Steve is putting some links on the risk. On the risk side, maybe we can think about, because together with the insurance industry or the insurance community, we are working on reducing the financial burden of the climate risks by ensuring appropriate insurance mechanisms. And we are testing it in Latin America, especially cities like Porto Alegre, which was also hit by the heavy disasters in Rio Grande do Sul last year, and then several other cities. Maybe this could be relevant, and I see the reference to Insurance Journal. This is exactly probably the type of topics we have to discuss, especially on the urban loss and damage. We have to bring this discussion more effectively. I think this was one of the good practices. It was in the loss and damage submission of LGMA. Let's check that. Good. This is our last 2 minutes of today's call. I think we are getting to saturation of our discussion for today. Kata, let's make sure we did not miss any input from our colleagues.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I think we're
Hassan, Auzul, and Trevin and Jones, and those colleagues who have expressed their support and appreciation. It is really valuable and really encouraging all of us. Thanks, Oliver, for your inputs and feedbacks. I think this will be a nice closure of the day, and wish you all a fruitful day, and let's stay connected in the way towards the preparations with our next webinar end of May. And till then, keep well and keep safe.